Okay, everybody, welcome again. We are still sort of waiting for a couple of more people to join us in this webinar, but the time um, is running. So in the for the benefit of the letting things rolling and not holding the topic further, I will start with introducing this webinar and our organization and briefly, and then give floor to the main speaker. So welcome again. This is a webinar series run by Informatics Europe. And we as Informatics Europe are an organization which aggregate or joins computer science departments, faculties, etc. throughout the European geographical area. As you can read here, we are dating back to 15 or more years ago, and try to and strive hard to represent the wide computer science or informatics community of Europe to the wider audiences, general public, academic life, and other stakeholders. We have the Informatics Europe as a organization is composed of the members, so we covered those 30 countries, 160 institutions, growing each year by a dozen or so, and that represents thousands of academic researchers, teachers, and also some companies which support our case. We want to be the voice of research and education of informatics in Europe. So we do shared networking, we do focused actions on things in education, in research, in all aspects of informatics that are important throughout the European area, and also foster knowledge transfer and collaboration, as you can witness right now actually within the seminar. Run by volunteers, governed by a board of directors, but most of the work is done actually by you and normal people from the departments, for which we have working groups, not research necessarily, on various areas which are more on the, as you can see, more on the policy or cross-cutting issues of informatics, which also is, I think, one of the strong benefits of Informatics Europe, that we can meet and work on common cases regardless of our concrete research and academic directions, right? So if you were interested in any of these areas, which you can see on the working group list, please contact Informatics Europe office, and they will put you in contact with the people who actually run or chair these working groups, and you can join the efforts. We also offer some services like this webinar, like leadership courses, and the main event and main benefit, I would say, is the European Computer Science Summit, which Informatics Europe runs once a year in autumn. This year it will take place in Edinburgh, Scotland, and that's a place where people meet, where you can see and hear leaders in topics on various current agendas that are directly at the heart of informatics or related to it on the social and policy setting aspects. And various other things like job platform and webinar series. So if you want to I don't want to spend more time on it. If you want to see more, you can have a look at the web pages of Informatics Europe and the social media. And regarding this seminar itself, it's actually run by Informatics Europe in cooperation with Cost Action European Network for Gender Balance in Informatics, EUGAIN, and the topic of the seminar at large is sharing experiences in gender aspects, in diversity in informatics, sharing best practices, seeing cases and examples how people do things that can inspire and help other ones to actually try themselves and see how it can affect their own environment, where these issues may be of lesser or greater importance. So that's also today's webinar and today's talk, in which our host, ready to share and to get on the track, is Marieke Huisman from University of Twente in the Netherlands. And I will just shortly introduce Marieke as the speaker, and she will then switch to her presentation and her talk about the topics that she wants to share with all of us today. Marieke is a professor in software reliability at Uni Twente and has been for a long time. She's working on formal program verification, mainly in Java, and lately on concurrent software. She obtained, more than 10 years ago, she obtained ERC starting grant, through which Workhorse Verifier was developed as one of the tools to help in the program verification effort. And since then she has been working more and more on enabling the verification of larger class of properties of software systems, of concurrent software, and by making verification more automatic. So that's briefly her scientific profile. Besides that, she works actively on topics related to diversity and equity and inclusion in computer science and science policy, chairing the national working group, the Dutch working group on equity, diversity and inclusion. She chaired a similar advisory board at the University of Twente and was chaired and is a member of executive board of the Dutch Association of Software Researchers. So she has both the strong research track and also a strong experience in the, let's say, governance and wider impacting issues in computer science. So, and Marieke wants to talk to us today about two things from her experience: the LSNE event at University of Twente, and the recommendations for promoting and growing researchers and academic colleagues at the university. So I think that has been a very long introduction. Marieke, I'm switching off to your talk. We are looking forward to see it. I just try to get the PowerPoint off the screen. And the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you. So let's share the screen again. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
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 Very
Perfect.
good. Okay, so thanks a lot for the introduction and for the invitation, and I'm glad it's finally happening. It was scheduled earlier, but unfortunately I had to cancel last minute because I didn't feel very well. But today I'm all ready to tell you about two things I've been working on. So I think Premak already said all this, but I just wanted to say a little bit. So yeah, I know I work a lot on diversity and inclusion. I find that important, but I also do research. If you want to know more about my research, I'd be very happy if you contact me or check out my web pages. And I've also done a lot of things. So I've been at the university advising on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I actually stepped down as the chair of the National Working Group for Diversity for Computer Science departments, but that's because I'm now a board member of the overall platform for computer scientists, so I can just have more influence there. And I initiated LSNE, the LSNE event, which is the first thing I'm going to talk about today. And I did that together with Sophie Lathouwers, Alma Schaafstal, and Marielle Stoelinga. So that will be the first part of my talk. I will have to keep an eye on the time as well, because there's probably too many things I wanted to share with you. But so what is Alice and Eve? So for us, at some point, I think it was with Mariella and Alma, and we were discussing about what could we do to make it visible that we have so many great women that, well, our students, our female students, PhD students, people we see nationally, internationally, working in computer science, and that they do all these great things. So we were discussing how we could make that visible. We read somewhere about the Lovelace colloquium in the UK, and inspired by that, we decided, let's organize an event. And well, Sophie is my PhD student, and she came up with this great name, Alice and Eve. So that's how we called the event, of course, inspired by Alice, Bob, who are then spied upon by Eve. So the first Alice and Eve ever that was organized was held in January 2020 at the University of Twente. And I already mentioned the names of my co-organizers, but I also would like to mention two students that helped us a lot in preparing things. So Niels van Huysen and Puk Kemper. So that's all the acknowledgements. Now, what is Alice and Eve? So first of all, it was a symposium, an event with talks. We targeted everybody that is interested to hear about the contributions of women in computer science. So we were really aiming broadly. We contacted everywhere in the Netherlands, all the computer science departments, and we contacted their PhD students, but also the study associations. And we told them, look, we're organizing this great event and please come. And also a lot of academic staff. And if you look at the picture that is shown on the screen here, you can see that we succeeded. It was I have to say, it was a great experience to talk in front of a lecture room where the majority of the people were actually female. It was a new experience for me as well. But we were very explicit to say that everybody would be welcome. So you can also see it was not just a female-only event. It was just an event about the contributions of women in computer science. And so the main thing during the day itself was the symposium, where we invited interesting, mainly female speakers, and we encouraged them to speak really about the contents of their research. So on the picture here is Venia Isovicloku, who's talking about her research on programming education. But we also had Anna Spirotto, who talked about network security. We had Stacey Jeffery, who was talking about quantum algorithms, and Joyce Westering, who was talking about measuring stress. And so it was a very broad range of topics, and it was really people were really invited to talk about their research, and of course that it would be accessible to a general audience. But what we explicitly wanted to avoid was that it would just be an event where women would talk about, oh, it's so difficult to be a woman in computer science. We really wanted to twist the angle and celebrate the achievements of women in computer science. And so in addition to the symposium, we also organized several side events. So during the day, we had invited all the participants to contribute posters. This was something that we had seen from the Lovelace colloquium, and we tried to be, so people submitted an abstract to explain what was in their poster, but we tried to be very inclusive there. So everything where we felt, yes, there is a connection to computer science, we would say, please come and show your poster. And during the day, every coffee break, there were poster sessions. And as you can see here, that there was a lot of, this really created a lot of interaction between the participants during the day. We also had some poster prizes in different categories, so for master students, PhD students, and so on. But it was mainly meant as a way to encourage people to really start talking to each other and not just to the people they already knew. What we did in addition was to create an exhibition where we portrayed the achievements of 25 women in computer science. And on the picture here is Francisca de Jong, who's standing next to the banner about her own research. So she was one of the women that was portrayed. And we tried to, for all of those, we tried to explain what were their main achievements. And of course, so during the day, we had this exhibition standing there, but we also wanted to make sure that people would, if not just look at it during the day, but also have a lasting impact. So what we did in addition is to create a booklet. Here on this picture, you see my co-organizer, Marieke Stoelinga. I still have it here myself. And it's a booklet where we give even more information about the contributions of all these 25 women. And it's something we still, it's a very nice thing to have. We still give it a lot. So after the event, whenever I went to a meeting, I would carry some booklets with me and give it to the people that I would meet there. And I think this is really a nice way to make sure that people see that, there are great things done by computer science. I actually also gave some to our study advisors, because they sometimes get girls that, or they get female students that are not feel that their male students do not respect them. And sometimes then a study advisor can just point at the booklet and say, look, women can program as well. So stop talking about that female students should not be there. So the 25 women, of course, I wanted to show you a bit. This is some parts from the exhibition. So, of course, we had some of the usual suspects, I would say. We could not create an exhibition about women in computer science and not talk about Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper. But we also tried to look a bit broader. So Hedy Lamarr, for example, who was the person who created the idea that is been behind the idea of Bluetooth, and the portraits were all trying to focus really on their contributions. And what you often see is, if you see an overview of achievements of women in some technical science, is that there's a very strong US focus. So we tried to avoid that and explicitly looked also for women from other countries. So, for example, we're also portraying Chi-Heng Hu, who was responsible for setting up the first TCP IP connection in mainland China. And we talked about her contribution. And of course, we have a special focus on female computer scientists in the Netherlands. Interestingly enough, we've never been able to find out who was actually the first female professor in computer science in the Netherlands. I've asked several of them, including Francis, for example, who helped setting up the first internet service provider of Europe. But we've never been able to really decide this was the first female computer science professor in the Netherlands. So we just decided to portray all the candidates for those. And so that's, that gives you a bit of a feeling. And I think the exhibition in the end is the long-lasting thing that came out of this day. What happened next? Well, first of all, we wrote a paper about this event and got that published. But that was, okay, that's nice, gave us a scientific contribution as well. But we wanted to do more. And then Corona came, because first we had big plans that the exhibition would travel to all the different computer science departments in the Netherlands. Corona came, we were all stuck at home. And at least we could still meet in the garden sometimes. So I was meeting Marieke, and we decided, let's have an online exhibition. So here is the website for that. And our idea was, let's create something where we can also make the achievements of these women in computer science accessible, not just to students, not just to people who already chose computer science, but also to high school kids. So let's do something that is appealing to them. And let's target a wider audience. So what we did there, of course, so we had the same information. We started out with the same 25 women. We put the text from the booklets and the banner in a slightly different format to make a nice web page. But we also went looking for more media material, movies, pictures, and so on, to make sure that it would really be appealing to a younger audience. And what we realized is that from a lot of these women, we could find movies, but not for all of them. And in particular, for the Dutch female computer science professors, it was hard to find movies, or they would just be in Dutch, but even that was not often available. So now so we decided to do something about that. I see I forgot the order of the slide. So I wanted to say, because we also tried to target this younger audience. So we hired another student, a student that actually is studying communication, and she helped us to set up an Instagram account where she would post nice things about computer science and try to use this Instagram account to attract people to come to the website. And so I was talking about the movies. So we realized that, there were no movies about some of these women that we portrayed, and we felt that we need to have something that shows them in where you can listen to them, where you can see them moving, where they're talking. So then we asked somebody to help us create this movie, and I'm quite happy with it. So I wanted to show you a bit of one movie from somebody that is well known in Informatics Europe. So
I'm a very bad chess player in my life. You have the chessboard, and I sort of think, well, if I put my queen there, then he's going to take it, and I'll put it there. Then okay, he's not going to take it. Good. But then my opponent is going, 4 levels further. It's like, oh yeah, but I can do this, this, and this, and then I'll have our queen. I don't live my life like that. My life is very much, here I am. What have we got? It's like being in a sweet shop. It's like, oh, look, we have hypertext over here. That's interesting. I don't know. Oh, let's do some hypertext. Oh, multimedia. Oh, they could go together. That'd be lovely. Semantic web. Great. Oh, we could look at that. And oh, yeah, we have a nice interface. And oh, that'd be brilliant. That's how I live my life. And I think what I do is that I see opportunities and I do take them. One thing I've learned is that if somebody asks you to do something, they think you can do it. So somebody said to me, would I be president of Informatics Europe? And, when he asked me, it's like, I can't do that. I can't be the president of all the computer science departments in Europe. That'd be ridiculous. But I sort of took a deep breath and I said, oh, thank you very much for asking me. Yes, I will consider your offer. And then I panicked. I'm Linda Huisman. I'm a manager of research and strategy at CWI, the Mathematics Center for Mathematics and Computer Science. And I'm also professor of multimedia discourse interaction at Utrecht University. I was working on hypertext in the company. They were looking at dynamic multimedia presentations. And the difference with, say, a YouTube video is that they really had a piece of video and a piece of sound, and then maybe an image, and then something else. You have these different objects on the timeline, and you want to synchronize them. In those days, synchronizing different types of media was very difficult. And I'm going, but yeah, that's all very well, but you want to be able to jump around these media. You don't just want to stand there and watch all this stuff until you're bored and you get to the end. You want to sort of hop to somewhere else and hop to somewhere else. And with Smile, it was a language model that allowed these synchronizations.
Okay, well, I hope you were intrigued by this. If you would like to see more of it, of Linda or of the other female scientists, well, I would say go to our website and look at these videos where they all talk a bit about their personal background, how they came into the position where they are, but they also talk about the contents of their research. So after that, so of course, as I said, Corona came, but Corona also disappeared again. So after our event in Twente, we have had 2 other instances of Alice and Eve. So November 21, there was an event in Nijmegen. On this picture, you see some of the PhD students from my group who enjoyed themselves very much when going there. And last November, we had an event in Delft. And if you look carefully on the picture here, you see that there's a banner from the Marielle Stoelinga, for example. So we added some new banners portraying some more women working in computer science in the Netherlands. And at the moment, because everything is possible again, so we are looking at Kennedy's exhibition, travel through the Netherlands, stand in computer science departments, and we're discussing where the next edition of Alice and Eve will be held. So that was what I wanted to tell you about Alice and Eve. And I think in particular, the main message that I would like to give you is that for me, it was really, it gave a lot of energy to organize an event to show people, okay, look, here are the great achievements and contributions, and at the same time also getting all these people together that were interested in hearing about it and the great atmosphere of being all there together. So that was a great thing, and I hope you maybe get a bit inspired by this and think about, could you organize something similar? And we would be very happy to share our experiences with everybody to inspire you how you could set up something similar. And we hope that our exhibition will expand further. Also, every year when we have our national ICT event in the Netherlands, we bring our banners and we show it again. So to just let the message sink in, women can do great things in computer science. So the second part of my talk is a bit more on the strategic side. So Premak already mentioned that I've been chairing the working group on equity, diversity and inclusion for computer science in the Netherlands. And as part of the working group activities, together with Alexander Serebrenik from University of Eindhoven, we made a document with recommendations on the best practices for recruitment, onboarding and promotion. Because when you look at what is, when you let Google search for what is a computer science professor, this is what you get. And if you look closely, you see there are only, of all these pictures, there is only 3 images that represent women faculty. And so Alexander made this slide, but if I search myself, I just get the same effect. And you might think, well, maybe it's different in my country, but at least in the Netherlands, this is exactly what the situation is like. It's just a very few female computer scientists and people. So there are a few of them. And moreover, the picture that people have is of a male computer scientist. And so we wanted to look at what can be done to improve this situation. And of course, there are many different things that can be done. You can look at how do we get more female students, but we decided let's focus here now on the career perspective of women in computer science. So what we did was we started by having interviews with 15 people that were working at the different computer science departments in the Netherlands and at CWI to hear about their feelings on this perspective. We also got a document from the similar physics group who had made a document with recommendations. And based on that, we made preliminary documents. After that, of course, we shared it within the working group, but we also talked with the head of the groups from the different computer science departments in the Netherlands. So we discussed with them. So we did that together with representatives of our working group. We discussed with them what they thought about the recommendations, what the situation in their department was like. And from this second set of meetings, we got new inputs and used that to create a final version of the document. And there are some observations that I would like to share with you here. First of all, an important thing to realize is that the importance of actually getting more women in computer science is not always recognized by everyone. And so it is crucial that the organizational leaders and the academic staff at all levels of the hierarchy realize and recognize the importance of diversity and of inclusion. And that it's important also to avoid biases, and that people should not be judged just based on their gender alone. So there are different things that could be done to create this awareness and to make sure that the management is also sharing this message. So you could think about offering diversity awareness trainings, active bystander courses, and offer those to all, to the management and at all levels of seniority. And of course, a lot of these things are happening already, but we also see that they're not mandatory. And what happens then is that they're followed by people that are actually already convinced about the importance of diversity. And so the big challenge is to make sure that people that have not seen this importance yet and have not seen that it's important to act upon, is that they also become aware of these issues and that they become aware of their own biases. So this is a thing I think that the management of the different computer science departments can take into account. And then, of course, we looked at the career path. Now, there are two important steps there. First one is the recruitment step, where you can have different kinds of, if you want to have more women, there are different actions that you could take. You could decide to only hire women, but of course, then there is always a risk that people will say, oh, this person was just hired because she's a woman and not because of her quality. You can also make sure that you improve, that you're careful in your evaluation process of the different candidates, and that you make sure that when you're evaluating them, people are really evaluated on their quality and not on the biases, and that people do not look just at, oh, I recognize this person, or yeah, he is already just like me, but that they are more open in what do they consider a good candidate. And one important factor we realized is also to actively encourage people, women, to apply. And an interesting observation here was that women already encourage other women to apply, but then if they ask their male colleagues to also do that, they get like, I don't really know this person, can I contact her? So I think this is something where we can still gain a lot. So that's for the recruitment process. Then once people are hired, the next step is to make sure that they also feel, because hiring diverse is one way, but then you want to be sure that people feel like part of any organization. So it's the inclusion aspects that are very important, and onboarding is very important here. We saw that often people felt a bit lost. They needed some support to develop a network, establish a network, to know what they who they could contact, how could they get their industrial contacts. And one way that can work very well here is mentoring. in addition to academic leadership courses. And well, we are, of course, working in a Dutch environment, and also cultural challenges can be very important to discuss, and a mentor can really help there. So in the Netherlands, we have a way of communicating which can be quite direct, and students or colleagues can be quite blunt when they give direct feedback to people. And for some people, that's very hard to understand at first, and to understand this was not meant in a personal way. It just came out in a very direct and way, and that is why you feel this way. Mentoring can really help to understand this, to understand what are the systems that are going, the systematic things that are going on. And what are the organizational biases, and when is it really time to think about your own personal challenges? Second question related to mentoring is also, who should be the mentor? And we don't have a good answer to it. I think this can depend very much on the candidate, on the person that should be mentored, on the organization, because of course, it can be very comfortable to be mentored by another woman, because the other woman can understand your personal circumstances. But as we don't have many women in computer science, it might mean that she's from a completely different area and cannot help you with the things that you need to set up a network, understanding what is going on in your particular area of research and how the things are going on there. So that's something that is not clear. Sometimes people also can have an external mentor, and that can be good, or basically somebody who's an expert in being a mentor, but this person then often does not have this network feeling. And so our final recommendation is basically to really look carefully here at what are the learning goals of the mentee? What does the mentee need? And is that really on establishing the network? Then it's more important to find a mentor from the right domain. If it's more about the personal things, work-life balance, that kind of things, then it might be much more important to actually find a female mentor or a mentor of the same gender. Okay, and then assuming people feel included and they love it, they flourish in their job, then of course the next question is what to do about promotion. And here we also see a big challenge. In the Netherlands, over the last years, we've come to a system where there's often some kind of tenure track, and then it's said that the tenure track has clear criteria. So that's good. But we see at the same time that they're looking at the leg with 5 sheep, the sheep with 5 legs, that they want somebody who can do everything. And this list of criteria, it gives a fake sense of transparency, because the people that evaluate it also realize that it's impossible to tick off all the boxes. So then it's not a real transparency if this is also not communicated, and this feeling that you have to tick off all the boxes and that it's very hard to do so can also create a lot of stress. So that's one thing. Another thing with these explicit criteria can be that some things are quite hard to measure. Then they say, oh, you need to perform well, but what does it actually mean to perform well? You need to be motivated. And that's the kind of things that implicitly play a role in your promotion, but they cannot be quantitatively assessed. And what we feel is that it's in these cases for promotion, it is very important not just to have this list, but to also have meetings where the criteria are discussed and where it's discussed with the candidate. How are you doing with respect to the criteria, and where are you with what you're currently doing? What are the things that you need to develop further? And of course, so we looked at this in the context of a report on how to to recruit and promote more women in computer science. But of course, in the end, this is very closely related to simply being a good employer. And then finally, something that we had not thought about upfront, but that came up in a later stage when we had the various meetings, is the importance of childcare facilities. And well, that was probably because my children were already older, they're teenagers by now, and Alexander doesn't have children. But we realized from the meetings that things like childcare and what sort of support do you get when you get a child are very important for women to feel comfortable in their work. So having on-campus childcare, making sure that the childcare also can be used in case you have extended working hours. If you're working towards a deadline, it really helps if you know that your children are cared for properly. Parental leave, in the Netherlands, we're not doing the best on that. We actually expanded from 3 days to 2 weeks for fathers, so there's still a lot of area to improve there. And also, what you see is that when women get a child, it sort of gives a dip in their CV, because of course it takes care to give birth, to raise the child. And in some universities, they have an approach where people get a lump sum when they're on when they go on maternity leave, and they can use that to compensate for the gap in the CV. And we found that a very interesting idea, and we think that it would be nice if that would be if there would be more places where they would look at similar approaches. So that brings me to the end of what I wanted to tell you today. So in this report, I realized I forgot to put the link to the report on the slide, but when I send the slides to Kaiwan, I will add the link there so you can also look at it and read it more quietly. But so we looked at can we give good recommendations on best practices for recruitment, onboarding, and promotion. Of course, we focused on the Dutch computer science context, but I do believe that a lot of the recommendations that we made are also useful in other countries, maybe with a twist, adapting to the national context, but I think it's interesting to look at. And the most important points that I wanted to share with you on that today were that it's very important to create this awareness of the importance of diversity, and don't let people escape. Just force them to go to meetings where they learn about this awareness, that they that they can't say, oh, this is the problem of the women, to just get more diversity in the department. Look at recruitment procedures. There's still a world to gain there. So gender neutral messages, use in particular during the search process. Make sure to really use your personal network, encourage women to apply, and make sure that the list of things that you're looking for is also something that people are willing to apply, that they feel they can fulfill the requirements of the job. And when you hire people, make sure you have a proper onboarding process with things like mentoring. And then if they do well, make sure that also to get promotion, there is transparency and real transparency in the criteria for evaluation. And this should be often discussed, and also make sure that all the things surrounding it, so support for maternity leave, parental leave, childcare, that all these things are properly arranged. That is what I wanted to share with you, and now I'd be happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Marieke. Virtual clapping of hands at this moment. Yes, we have 10, 15, 20 minutes up to you to ask questions to Marieke. So either raise your hand and I will try to manage that, or write your questions in the chat, and I will monitor that and then give floor also to those questions written. So Bara is raising her hand. So Bara, you are the first. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sorry for not having the camera available. Thank you for a very nice talk. I enjoyed both parts so much. Congratulations to the Alice and Eve events and activities. I really like that. What was running through my mind when you were talking is that I really want to emphasize, as you said, that the importance to find more role models, because staying, we have this tendency to repeat a few, like all of us, I mean, in different countries, but then we are missing, those girls who do not find maybe those role models from the past that relevant, might ask, but like, what about now? What about like here and now? So that was like one question. If you are continuing with that collection of role models from the rest of the world, or from Netherlands, or from Europe, whatever piece of the world, and if you plan to like make this collection available to people in other countries to like show or point to those women, that's first question, and then maybe after the answer I will ask one more to the second part of the talk.
So we don't have a concrete plan at the moment. We have a big wish, but of course it also takes time to do this, to get the texts and everything. So what I'm hoping for is that we will continue with the Alice and Eve events, also just having the meetings, and that my secret hope is, what I try to push for is that every year the organizers feel like, oh, we could add a few more women. And so last time it was just women working in the Netherlands, also because, well, there were some reasons, because the universities were sponsoring us to make the movies, and then we said we also portray women working there. But I also think, I know that already the first time when we organized Alice and Eve, then people came to us and said, oh, if you're doing this again, if you expand the exhibition, I have some good names for you. And I think it would be great to do that. I know that in the Netherlands, so our diversity working group, they have a bit of budget, so they might do it. But we also have some other ideas. So there are also people looking at LGBTQIA+ researchers, and we've been thinking, oh, it would also be good to portray that and show that there's more than just Alan Turing. And so we have a lot of ideas. It's always a matter of balancing time and what we can achieve, but I would really love to expand it.
Yeah, that's great. And let's see. I think that within EUGAIN we might also actually think about it in one of the next meetings, like how to collect these role models. Yeah, I will bring that up actually, because when you were talking about it, I was inspired that actually this is something we could do collectively. A question to the second part of the talk. One thing that I understood, because I'm also active now in the discussions at my university about some activities towards promoting gender balance in academia and at the university, etc. One thing I understood is often when there is this pushback that you also mentioned, the pushback comes with the argument that we want to hire by performance and merit, not by gender. And what I understood over time is that actually we should redefine what performance and merit means, because we so often have very narrow vision of what matters in science and academia. And then I give just like one example, but I would then like to ask you to think about more from your context. For instance, what we see among women is very often the interest in interconnecting different areas and expertise and bring them together, which is rather looking into the perspective and how different fields and results can benefit from each other, then maybe going that much in depth in one certain very specific and narrow area. And if that happens, then if they are judged by that, depth in one thing and being asked, show me like one result that goes in depth, of course they might appear weaker. Like those that are rather having the talent to interconnect. And therefore, sometimes I feel we need to redefine what like being a good researcher really means, because now the criteria are actually being, making somebody appear worse, even if they are not. And I wanted to ask you about your vision. Like, do you see some similar traits? And if so, do you have some examples that you could like add to this one that I just mentioned?
Let's see. So I really recognize what you're saying. I also think that there is this, I think it's clear we don't want to hire somebody who's not good. But I think that this thing we want to hire the best. I don't believe in that. I don't think that it's possible to order people and say this researcher is definitely better than that one and do that in an objective way. So I think that's first, and because there people have this standard, let's just count publications. In the Netherlands, there is a lot of fuss at the moment about what we call rewards and recognition. And so I see a slow transition where people are not just evaluated on the standard criteria, like you have so many papers as first author or that kind of thing, so many grants, but also evaluate people on other things. And people try to make that more explicit, and that we should not just look at the standard traditional criteria, but also look at other things. So I think one thing is to put it on paper. The other thing is to put it in the culture, and that's going to take time. That's basically what I can say about it for now.
Yeah, I think what that boils down to often is also when we see women often being active in, like, for example, organizing different like activities around promoting gender balance, talking to high school students, etc., but then not being given credit for the time they spend on it, right? So that's another maybe example that then when thinking about like promotion, if this is seen as a lower importance thing overall, then of course they might appear worse. But is it really lower importance? Like, it is extremely important. So yeah, that's an impression I'm getting, that we should like reevaluate those criteria.
So I think that's also one thing, and so that's something as the working group we try to actively make that clear. Look, if we have people that are a member of this should be judged. I also have to admit that. So what I think is it's important. Our working group in the Netherlands does not just have women, but also men. And I think it's also very important to find men that are sort of our allies. And so in our departments, we have some people, and sometimes then I see something and then I tell them, look, or I can say something, look, you're not having you have now just a list of 10 male speakers. I can say it, but then I'm just a shouting woman. And if he says it, then it's different. And so I use that also. So sometimes I go that way. But it's I think we are in agreement, and it just takes a lot of time to change these things.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bara, for the question. Anyone else, if before you ask or write. Marieke, I also wanted to say I admire that you had actually in short time pretty concrete, accurate, or not accurate, but pretty concrete results for the whole Dutch community, which sometimes is not easy to make a nationwide concerted effort. So I think that's excellent. And as Bara was asking about the changing the performance criteria, from what you were saying, it seems to me that you very much in both cases, in the Adam and Eve and in the recommendations, you preferred collectively, not yourself, not yourself only, sort of organic growth of the thing, of changing the rules and the culture of promoting, of growing and recruiting wider, more diverse structure of the academic staff. Is that was that a conscious plan or direction, or did that grow itself organically because the people would be opposed to quotas or more strongly enforced means to the same end?
Oh, I find that hard to say. I guess that well, what I find is that what I see is that for me personally, I find that solidarity is very important, and so I've done very well. But I'm always I also find it very important to help other people, young researchers, and so I think that the doing things together and let it grow together, that comes a bit together with this. And I see also, so I mean, I think a lot of people in the Netherlands see me as a successful researcher, then I can use that also to push other people that I think deserve a bit of push because they're also doing great things. So I think that's also a reason to do things together.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Any more? Anyone else? But we have still time for one or two questions, certainly. So feel free and don't hesitate to ask. I had some more short questions, or maybe yeah. There are comments in the comments in the chat. Thanks for this very interesting lecture and its important points. And from Lillian, it's interesting that we need the man to go in front of us to make things happen or to be heard. I've heard the same in management and for female entrepreneurs who want to start a firm and invest. So good key points and an interesting talk.
And I think, but I don't think we should let them go in front of us, but we should go together. And that's, it's a matter of choosing your allies.
Yeah. That's true, because yeah, we are not competing. We need to work towards. Yeah. I was before anyone else, or Sabina has unmuted herself. Sabina, do you want to ask anything? No, it doesn't look like. Short question, Marieke. Both of these efforts are quite recent, I understand, because the initiative is kind of still ongoing and the recommendations have been recently. Have you already seen some results, even though it's still fresh?
Oh, that's well, I think for Alice and Eve, what I consider a success is that we had follow-up events and people see this. So that's just, but to say what is the long-lasting effect of it is more difficult. I do think that with this other report, the fact that we wrote a report, that was good. But then the second step that we did, where we started talking with the head of the department, I think that was important because it means that they have to well, they cannot just say, oh, this is something we got on paper, but they actually have to talk about it. And what we have decided is that we're going to continue that. So that we have an annual meeting with all the head of departments. It does take time, but it's very good because it forces people to really reflect on what they are doing. So in that sense, I see results, and of course, changing then everything, the procedures, the culture, that's something. I think it's a long-term thing to make that happen, but by having these regular meetings, we really get more, we create more awareness.
Yeah, because that looks like you get the initial investment of those people rather than apprehension. Yeah. Good, thanks. So, more questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, could I ask a question? Eleni
Sure,
Berki.
Eleni, yes.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for this wonderful lecture and the very important key points. All the key points were quite significant, I think, for bringing about reforms. They have to be taken into consideration. I would like to refer to something that I have heard recently by other women, and I have also considered it myself, for that has to do with the promotional activities and employment activities. There is, of course, this lack of hiring of women in computer science departments, and it is there are not specific policies for recruitment, and I have heard, and I would like the opinion of anyone tonight in this group, or whoever wants to say something, or if they have heard the same, that many women consider before applying for a job to a specific computer science department, that they search the web pages and they find from social media ideas from other women, what is it like working in that department, and they check also to see what is the percentage of women. And many times, since the percentages are very low and the women are not so satisfied with their current job in that department, this is an important issue and makes other women retreat. That is, they don't want to apply for work to that particular department. So this somehow recycles the phenomenon and doesn't increase gender equality. So I don't know, it's an observation, and I have found out now during the times of Corona that while many women suffered from more than men, research-based evidence this. So many women were thinking of finding another job, but they are now very careful. They search for evidence. And if there, first of all, if there are women hired in those departments, then what is the percentage, and if they are satisfied from their job? So eventually, that is something that backtracks somehow gender equality. If someone has heard something similar, I would be interested, because I would like to write something about that. I'm searching for evidence also, but also personal experiences if someone has or have heard, or there is a reference. Thank you. Yes. And thank you for organizing this tonight. It is very interesting to have women from all over Europe to attend.
Marieke, do you want to respond a bit?
Yeah, it's different. I find this is so what I see is in our computer science department, so we have 7 groups, and some groups do well with women and others have a much harder time. So I can, what we always say is if we get one, then it's much easier to get multiple. But I'm not aware of, I don't have evidence for you. It's just a feeling I have, but not that I know of people that really look at where they're going to. So I don't have evidence, which you were asking for.
Okay, yes, thank you. I don't know if someone else has some evidence on this or some reports, facts, discussions. It seems it's a new phenomenon, like it is associated a little bit with this great giving up jobs or this movement, maybe.
Okay, Eleni, I think if you are interested in this topic, because we will need to be closing down in some time because Marieke has other duties then. But the EU Gain project, which has been mentioned and which has been also setting up this webinar series, there are people who make effort in this direction, trying to gather some evidence or helping each other in directions of career promotion in academia, in recruiting more female students into computer science discipline. So if you are interested, drop us a line and we can put you in contact with the EU Gain, or you can look up and try to join yourself, because that might be interesting for not just for you, but for more people as well who might share the same issues and goals. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. I will certainly be in touch with you and other people,
Okay.
and I will search also the website of the project. Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's slowly time to close. Bara, sorry, I saw your hand. If you want to short reply, but we will need to let Marieke go as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to confirm that, you know, like we as women really like have other women gravitating towards us. So like being visible also when the faculty is communicating something is something that can really change the inflow of women towards that department. I absolutely agree by seeing also the number of women in my team. I'm a software architecture researcher. I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, just short comment.
Thanks. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating, for questions, for sharing. Thank you very much, Marieke, for sharing with us your efforts, your experiences, also your feelings about it, because that's an important part of it, how much one feels happy about what we are doing. So I hope you were glad to attend, everybody, and Marieke as well. We will have the slides available, and the recording will be available on Informatics Europe YouTube channel. So if you want to have a look at it later on or refer to it, it will be possible, everyone. Kitwan, is there anything else we should tell the participants before we end
Have a
the
nice
webinar?
evening, and thank you for participating.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. This ends this Informatics Europe webinar. Thanks again to Marieke as being our guest today, and enjoy the afternoon and the evening, and all the best to everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.